One session, 1 minute, sir. We have started recording the session. Okay, just a minute. Okay, am I audible, sir? Do you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So my camera has been off. Should I turn the camera on or is no? There's no need.
Yes, sir. Yes, please.
Okay, that's fine. And you have recorded, so I will share my screen, and then
Yeah.
we can start.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes, it's visible, sir. Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
So
And
yeah, before that, let my colleague introduce Dr. Huck to all the audience. Dr. Chaud, please take over. Chaud, do you hear me? Chaud.
yeah.
There is some issue, it seems. Okay. Right. Uh, okay, let me continue. Uh, so this is a brief profile of Dr. Mohabil Haq. Dr. Mohabil Haq is a senior lecturer in international strategy, sustainability, and entrepreneurship in the Huddersfield Business School, University of Huddersfield, United Kingdom. He received MSc in project planning and management and PhD in small business management from University of Blackburn. His research interests include sustainable success, competitive advantage, knowledge management, customer relationship management, and strategic human resource management in the context of micro businesses. He has published in several journals, including journals of small business management and Journal of Business Research, International Journal of Entrepreneurship and Small Businesses, and so on. Dr. Mohabil Haq, thank you very much for joining us today. And so over to you, sir. Right? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. It's an honor for me. So should I continue my presentation?
Yes, sir. Please.
Okay,
Please
that's
go ahead.
fine. Yeah, that's fine. So of course I can see my screen. I can't see anything else. If anybody raise their hand, they have any questions, please just shout. So if I have an answer, I will provide an answer. If I don't have an answer, and if I have a reason that why I do not have an answer, I will explain that. So that's basically me here. You have introduced me very nicely. Thank you very much. Right. So which research philosophy and methodology? This is a question which bothers basically all of us who do research, especially social research in business and management or humanities in social sciences in general. And this question bothers PhD students, almost all PhD students, more than any other community. This question bothered me for a couple of years when I was doing my PhD. I did my PhD part-time, by the way, in about between 5 and 6 years. I was working full-time. So this question definitely bothered me for a very long time because when I was formulating my research question and I was reading materials that we call literature review, I was feeling that, oh, this is actually my research philosophy. I need to adopt this. And when I read any books about methodology or journal articles, I felt, yeah, this is the methodology I need to adopt. So basically, PhD students sometimes they are very interested, excited, and they want to do almost everything, and it's difficult that to find their foothold in a particular methodological context and decide which philosophy they belong to or which methodology they adopt. So that's why I chose this topic. So which research methodology and philosophy is best for my project? You might have seen, if you have done a PhD, or if you are doing PhD, or if you are planning to do a PhD in the near future, then you might have seen something like this, or you might see something similar when you read books about methodologies or even journal articles. So they're basically types of research methodologies: quantitative research, qualitative research, descriptive research, analytical, applied, fundamental, exploratory, so on, and blah, 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 which is, of course, very confusing, and it's difficult to decide which one we need to adopt. Therefore, it's important to go to the basics of how we see the world around us. So the agenda for today's discourse is something like this. We will briefly discuss research philosophies or research philosophy, followed by qualitative research methods and quantitative research methods. Finally, we will try to establish if there is a best methodology or there is a set of best methods that we can adopt for our research project. So participants, by the way, as I said in the beginning, that I encourage people to ask questions whenever you feel like. Don't keep your questions to yourself. No question is a small question, and every question is a valid question. Of course, we are all in the education sector. Questioning is really important. If you do not ask questions, we are limiting our learning. So whenever you feel like having a question, just fire it. Don't keep in your mind for too long. Otherwise, we tend to forget by the time we come to the end, because we cannot, of course, remember everything. Right, so research philosophies. What is a research philosophy? A research philosophy is basically who we are. And our philosophies depends on how we see the world around us. And this mindset of this uh, approach of how we see the world around us is sometimes also called a paradigm. You might heard this fancy word paradigm, but we'll try to break it down, what it really means, and what is the relationship between a philosophy and a paradigm. They are more or less similar, but they are not, of course, exactly the same. So, in other words, a paradigm is a framework, or it may be a model, a mental model, which is based on some basic belief systems that we adhere to, or that we understand, or that we hold. And this basic belief system then guides us in doing our research. Of course, when we do our research, it has to be disciplined in a scientific way. So, a paradigm is a framework which guides us to do our research in a scientific and a systematic manner. There are basically two types of paradigms overall, and there may be other paradigms in between, but on a continuum, on the two extremes, we have positivism, and on the other hand, on the other end, we have interpretivism. Sometimes we refer interpretivism to relativism, and sometimes to constructivism. These three concepts, interpretivism, relativism, and constructivism, are more or less the same. And if we go to the micro details, they may be different in social research, but overall, there are two paradigms. We have a positivist paradigm and we have a relativist paradigm. So just to keep that in mind for later on, if we need to come back to this slide later on to explain things a little bit in more detail, we will do so. So these paradigms are basically, they are distinguished, they are differentiated from each other based on our own ontological and epistemological positions. Now, these are also fancy words. I hope most of you are experienced researchers, so understand these fancy words very well. But of course, not all of us will be experienced researchers. We are still learning, many of us, including me. So let's see what it means. So ontology is actually the reality of nature, which means that the assumption and the beliefs that we have about the existence of something. In other words, ontology is whether a reality of something or the existence of something depends on human activity or human perception or human knowledge, or it does not depend on our activity. It is independent of our thinking system. That is basically ontology. They generally, when you start a PhD, which when I did, I realized that we have our tutors or lecturers, professors, they explain, the word they explain is if a tree has fallen in a forest somewhere far away, and we have not seen it, or we have not heard the tree falling, does that mean the tree has not fallen, or it means it has? So that's basically an example of whether the existence of something depends on our knowledge or it is independent of our understanding. So that's ontology. Now, as we discussed previously in the same slide up here, that there are two basic paradigms, positivism and interpretivism. So this really depends on the ontology, that how we see reality around us. So we will let's have the next point that hopefully it will be clearer. Then, of course, once we have positioned ourselves in terms of reality being independent of our perception or being dependent on our perception, then it leads to epistemology, which is the nature of knowledge. In other words, the relationship between the knower and the knowable. The knower in this sense will be we as researchers, and the knowable is the topic that we are researching about. For example, you might be interested to see how employees, uh, what it what it takes for employees in a given organization to become more productive. For example, if that's your research question or that's your research topic, then of course you as a researcher is the knower, and employee productivity will be your topic, the knowable. So what is this relationship? So this will then of course lead, this will depend on the methodology that we adopt, how we can access knowledge, that keeping in mind ethical standards and moral principles that guide our inquiry. So that's basically the important things that we need to understand in social research is what is our ontological position. And once we have found that we belong to a particular scientific community in terms of paradigm, then that leads us to epistemology, that we will determine, will find out what is our relationship, our individual relationship with those subjects or cases or people or topics, whatever it is. And then, of course, once we have established that, it will lead us to adopt a particular methodological approach. So that methodological approach will be, of course, then either there are two overall methodological approaches again, qualitative research methods and quantitative research methods based on our ontological, epistemological, and methodological standing. Do we have any questions so far? I can't see people, of course. Anybody can say anything. Even I do not know if you are there still or not. I can't see anything. So do we have any questions or should I continue?
So please continue, carry on.
Okay. Right. Then if you do not have questions for me, then I have a question for you. So what do you see here? In here, of course, everybody, please participate. Just to say anything, whatever you see. Anybody? Don't be shy. What do you see on my screen?
Flowers, bunch of flowers.
Good. Flowers. Anybody else? Somebody said flowers. Thank you very much. Anybody else? What do you see on my screen? Do you see my screen? Right. Chad, how many people we have in the room? Guys, how many people we have in the room?
We have 17, 18 are there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, please, 17, 18 people. Please speak about what do you
Yeah.
see on my screen?
Yep.
Somebody said flowers. Anybody else?
Some background,
Okay,
maybe
a
the,
gray
right?
background. Yeah, okay, gray
Yeah,
background. Okay,
background.
thank you. Anybody else? Please speak up. I need your help. Charity. Okay, right. What do you see here?
Ali Abdullah has raised his hand, so he
Okay,
has
please. Yeah,
something to
yeah,
say.
yeah. Just don't raise your hand. Just
Animals,
say it.
animals.
Okay, good. Anybody else here? What do you see?
Yeah. Some giraffe,
Okay.
elephant,
Mm-hmm.
and deer, right? And
We
some
see
something like
elephants. We see giraffe. We see
yeah,
reindeer. Okay. Anybody else?
yeah.
Yeah. The reason I'm showing these screens or these pictures is this is actually a test which paradigm we think we belong to. In other words, what is our ontological and epistemological position with regards to what we see? So what we do not all of us of course have eyes, we have similar vision, but we see the world around us differently. So we have animals, we have giraffe, we have okay. So what do you see here? Animals again?
Lions,
Okay, well, lions. What else? Okay, so let me take back here. Somebody said, one of you, thank you very much, whoever you are, that flowers, a bunch of flowers. And another person said there is a gray background. So for most of us, of course, this is flowers, right? Social researchers will definitely go beyond this. They do not see things at their face value. They go beyond the obvious. The obvious here is, of course, is a bunch of flowers. So, of course, one of you said it's a bunch of flowers. It is a bunch of flowers. But of course, social researchers will go beyond that. And what they see here is you see red roses, you see yellow roses, and some, I think, some pink roses. And if you have to categorize it, it is, of course, not only flowers, but it is a particular type of flower, roses. All of them are roses. Now, there are arranged in different colors. So this is basically maybe a quantitative researcher probably will say bunch of flowers, and a qualitative researcher will say roses in different colors. And similarly, in here, we have animals. That's all we can categorize. That will be one view. And you said animals, and somebody else was actually differentiating what type of animals are there. But if you have to categorize them, they are wild animals. Right? They are not only animals, but they are wild animals. You guys, you agree with me? Okay, here somebody said lions. Yes, they are lions, but lions are drinking water. And water is life. So people see the same thing very differently. And to me, the first glance when I took this picture from internet, I was thinking lions are drinking water. So lions are basically doing something, some activity here. Okay, finally, so what do you see here? Let me show all of these pictures. And in one word, how will you describe these pictures? In one sentence, rather, a short sentence. Maybe 3 words. Sorry?
Greetings.
Exactly. Yeah, good. Thank you very much. Greetings in different cultures. So you need to keep this in mind why I'm showing these pictures. For example, in here, this is probably maybe in your country as well. People rub their noses when they greet each other. And this is, for example, the Japanese culture, people bow. These are two different cultures here in this picture. One is bowing, the other is basically trying to shake hand. And this person here, I think it's a Dalai Lama, if I'm not wrong, sticking his tongue out. This is how people greet each other in Tibet. And this last picture here is, I think, after COVID or even during COVID, that's how some people greeted each other because handshake and then hugging was not considered to be healthy to stop the spread of the virus. So social changes, technological changes, political changes, and other changes in the environment, in the external environment, sometimes force our culture changes in our introduces changes in our culture. So we need to be aware of that as social researchers. I might need to come back to these again if I have to, but for now, please bear with me. Of course, then this leads us to specific research methodologies that we can adopt. One of them, as I said, there are two extremes when it comes to paradigms or when it comes to ontological positions. One is positivism and one is relativism. So each one of these ontological positions then will lead us to having an epistemological position that will explain what is our relationship with those that we are trying to research. And then this will, of course, lead us to methodology. So if our ontological position and our epistemological position is such that if it's somewhere, here, lines are drinking water. In here, animals, which is in my understanding, a very positivistic approach that we see things from outside and then we make a decision about that. So we don't go into the nitty gritty of if it's social research, for example. So we will say here this is a group of wild animals wandering, in the open. So that will lead us to qualitative research philosophy. So what is qualitative research in a nutshell? Is the assumption here in qualitative research is an objective reality does not exist, right? And a reality independent of our perception does not exist. That's basically the assumption that if a tree fallen in a forest and we are aware of it or we are not aware of it does not exist. So if we are not aware of it, it does not matter. It does not mean anything for us. In here, the researcher is a part of creating the reality. The researcher is not independent of that reality. The researcher is a part of creating that reality. So therefore, an objective reality does not exist. All realities in life are socially constructed. That's the basic assumption. No, there is nothing wrong with this, and I'm not saying that uh, this should be a paradigm we all adhere to. I'm not saying that, but this is a social, position when it comes to social research. Some people have this position. So when a qualitative research methodology is adopted, it's generally when there is a little research has already been done in a particular context or a particular case or a particular geographic area or a particular group of people or a particular concept is under researched. So we need to go into depth. Then we generally adopt a qualitative research methodology. And the point here is we need to build a theory or a model because enough research has not been done already in that particular field of inquiry. However, there is a problem, a serious problem, of course, which we need to be aware of if we decide to adopt a qualitative research methodology. And this problem is in its extreme form, there may be as many realities as people in a given context. But of course, we do not go, of course, to extreme levels in social research. But there is a possibility that if we adopt a purely qualitative research methodology, then there may be multiple realities, and all these realities may be true in their own right, in their own sense, and then there will be as many realities as people which is not practical and may not be practical, but it is possible. In qualitative research, the other problem is because it depends on a small number of sample with, of course, a lot of data, unstructured data in general. Therefore, generalization, statistical generalization in this sense is not possible. However, we have conceptual or theoretical generalization. We can generalize based on theory or based on a concept, but we cannot generalize. For example, if you have done a research in Oman, qualitative research, and then you want to generalize it to in the UK, it will not work that way. In a similar environment, for example, in the UAE, you might say that Oman has more or less similar culture and more or less business environment as in the United Arab Emirates. Therefore, it may be generalizable to some extent, but in general, it is difficult to claim that your research findings can be generalized from sampled population in other contexts or in other geographic areas. Any questions, guys, so far? Okay, no questions. It's a good sign. Benefits of qualitative research methods. Sorry, somebody wanted to say something?
No, I just said thank you very much. No question.
Okay, right. There are, of course, a lot of benefits in doing qualitative research because we depend on a small number of samples And this small sample gives us the opportunity to analyze a specific social reality in detail. And then the benefit of this is we then have some detailed insights about a social concept or social aspect of life, which this is not possible in quantitative research. We will see in a minute. Data collection is relatively easy because you have small samples, and then you adopt generally something called purposive sampling techniques. Basically, for example, if you decide to have an interview technique to collect your data, you start with the people who you already know, and then these people might lead to other people. So data collection in that sense is easy, but it is time consuming and it is very subjective. So your participants, if you interview, let's say 50 people, 50 is considered a very large sample in qualitative research anyway. But people do, for example, in my PhD, I had 43 interviews, which is considered quite reasonable. But of course, there is no answer how many samples. It really depends. But generally, data collection is very easy compared to quantitative research methods, but data analysis is time consuming. So generally, we have focus groups, semi-structured interviews, or even unstructured interviews to collect the data. And when it comes to data analysis, there are few techniques. To my understanding, thematic analysis and content analysis are widely adopted in qualitative research. I generally do thematic analysis, which is a bit systematic, but of course not as systematic as you might find something in quantitative research. You still have the freedom of coding your data whatever way you want to, but it's generally more adopted than other techniques, thematic analysis, which is quite time consuming because you have a lot of unstructured data. So of course there are computer systems available nowadays such as NVivo and other software that you can use, but I don't think we need to go into that detail for now. So on the other extreme is the positivism. On the positivism side and positivist paradigmatic side, we have quantitative research methods. So the assumption here is a single reality exists about a social phenomenon, right? In here, the researcher is almost totally disconnected from the researched, or the knower is not connected with the knowable. So reality exists independent of our perception, and there is a single reality in general about a particular social aspect at one point in time. And this reality can be understood using quantifiable facts obtained by adopting quantitative methods or methodologies. So this type of research methodology is generally adopted in a well-established context, a research area in which a lot of research has already been done. A lot of theories and models are established. So we adopt this and we might be able to extend or test a particular theory or model. This is not to say that quantitative research methods does not lead to theory building. Sometimes they do, but in general, the aim here is not theory building or model building. The overall aim in general, of course, again, is theory testing or theory extension. Okay, so the problem with this approach is, again, in its extreme form, one size fits all. Okay, so is this a problem if we have an approach where one size we have an understanding that one size fits all? Do you guys see a problem with this understanding? I will ask you another question. So if in the West people are really obsessed, right, with this concept that women are same as men and women 100% same. This is basically a very positivistic approach. So one size fits all, women and men 100% the same. I personally have a serious issue with this statement or with this perception. So do you guys, anybody here, let's not talk about women and men as such, but I just gave this example to explain my point a little bit clearer. So the problem here is one size fits all. And if we have this approach, then it has a serious social implications with regards to the concepts equality, equity, justice. Yeah, sorry, somebody wanted to say something?
Yeah, I would like to say something here, please.
Please.
For me, at least, I don't think one size fits all is something right because people are different. For example, I'm a teacher in a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I have 30 students. I have 30 different personalities, identities, ways of learning. So I cannot say one size fits all in such a case.
Yeah, true. Definitely. Of course, we all agree that one size does not fit all. But I'm not saying that there is a problem with the quantitative research methodologies. A lot of people in the world do quantitative research, but in its extreme form, it's possible that we paint everything with the same brush, and we believe that one size fits all in its extreme form again. So there is we need to be aware of the risks of adopting a particular research methodology. That's my point. So let me show this one here. As you can see, I gave you this example. The West is totally obsessed with men and women. I think what they're trying to say is, which they do not explain in general, that men and women have equal, they must have almost equal legal rights, right? They're not the same. Their physique is not the same. Their physiology is not the same. Their needs are the same. Their body is not the same. Men are generally considered stronger physically than women, and women may be multitasking than men. Their needs are very strong. They wear generally different clothing. So all of that counts. Basically, this example our friend just gave us, that in the classroom, you have so many students, all of them have different personalities. So you need to take that into account. If you have that type of paradigm or mindset, then to me, you are generally a qualitative researcher. So in here, in this picture, as you can see, this side here, it's inequality because of many reasons. The tree is inclined towards this person here, and on this side there are a lot of fruit, on this side there are not a lot of fruit. So this is inequality. So they provide it in this picture here. This is basically what we're saying here is, okay, men and women are the same. So this concept here, so they have equal rights, right? That's true. So these evenly distributed tools and assistance, but it's not still enough. So equality, then of course we provide tools and assistance to people according to their needs, basically customed tools. And the final picture here is justice. Is, as you can see, there are with these sticks, the tree has been is not leaned anymore, and this person has a bit longer ladder, and the fruit on the tree is also equally distributed. So this is basically justice. And if we want to do Justice, by the way, I'm a qualitative researcher, so I might be biased. So I, must make that point clear. So we need to see things in a different way uh, than positivists. So I'm generally relativist in that sense, but I do not believe that everything is socially constructed either. There are some fundamental things which we have to accept and which we just follow. But generally in social sciences, uh, people are not the same. People are not equal. Therefore, we need to adopt different methodologies according to whatever we research. So that was the point I was trying to explain. Any questions we might have so far? Okay, no questions. So there are, of course, benefits of quantitative research methodologies, data collection, relatively easy because you have large amounts of numerical data. However, it may be a bit difficult to design questionnaires. By the way, I'm a qualitative researcher, but I do quantitative research as well with other colleagues. So I'm familiar to some extent with the positivist approach as well. So questionnaire development, if you are a PhD student or if you plan to do a PhD, you need to bear in mind your research design, especially questionnaire design, can be quite time consuming due to scales that you use, Likert scales or yes or no answers. It's less likely that you invent a scale. You need to adopt a scale which other people already invented. So it takes a lot of reading, literature review to do so. Data analysis is also easy because all you need to do is just put your data into a computer system such as AMOS, SPSS, Smart PLS, and it does a lot
Doctor,
of. Yeah.
as you are just covering the differences between the quantitative and the qualitative from an epistemological point of view, which is the positivist and the interpretivist.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you just give us a question, research questions that is being tackled from a positivist point of view, and the same question is being looked at from a glance, from the lenses of the interpretivist point of view?
Yeah. Good question. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Just bear with me, please. And I think I might have another 1 or 2 slides that might answer your question. But
Okay.
I promise we'll come back to your question in a short while.
Okay.
Yep. It's a really good question. It's a really good question. Thank
Another question as well, as long as we are talking about the positives as of now,
you. Mhm.
may you just elaborate a little bit on the concept of the realism as it's aligned with the positivist school of thought?
Okay, this is another good
Would it's,
question. Yeah, I
would
think
it is good.
your 2 questions are quite linked to each other, right? This is another good question. So I think bear with me. I will come back to both
I
of
will
your
for sure.
questions. Yep. Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so in quantitative research approaches, the inferences may be generalized from large samples to populations. Maybe it's most likely in many cases, but of course not always, because each context again can be different. As we have seen from the picture, greetings in different cultures. So the greetings in different cultures are different. So social norms and practices are also different in different cultures. Even if we are living in a globalized world today, where economically all countries are connected, but still business environment can be different in one country from another country. Therefore, uh, these inferences, findings may not always be generalized everywhere, all the time. So they're generally more generalizable than qualitative research, but still there may be limitations. Okay, so what can we do as social researchers? Well, generally, we cannot do much to diffuse the tension between different paradigms as such. We have to, live with it as in a way largely. But of course, there are few things that we can do. That mixed methods is, for example, another approach. It's not a research approach as such, a separate research approach. It's basically a combination of the two paradigms, positivism and relativism. We combine that in the same research, and that can mitigate up to some extent the weaknesses of mono methods, of the weaknesses of adopting only one method. So, if we adopt,
Doctor,
Mhm.
is this mixed method similar to the philosophy of pragmatism? Pragmatism?
Good. Yeah. So in mixed methods, people who adopt mixed methods are pragmatists. So pragmatism is not, in my understanding, is basically not a different paradigm. It is in between the two paradigms, positivism and relativism. So pragmatists are people who adopt any method that works for them.
Okay.
Right. So in mixed
Okay.
methods, you are right. In mixed methods, pragmatists generally adopt mixed methods because they will go for anything which can work. So they don't have a fixed research philosophy, positivism or relativism. They go for whatever works for them at the time. So pragmatism, yes, that's definitely pragmatism. And mixed methods, of course, also uh, is used to triangulate, and there are different approaches. Mhm.
To what extent this pragmatism philosophy is being adopted in the social science? Because philosophically, I mean, from an epistemological point of view, it is a bit difficult to what you consider as a fact and reality. Half of the research you tackle it from extreme
Okay.
positivism point of view, and probably you analyze your data as
Yeah.
relativism.
Okay, good. Thank you. Right. So I have been in the UK for 22, 23 years, and I have been in the academia for over 5 years. So I can speak what is the research environment in the UK. It's a combination of qualitative and quantitative research, not mixed methods as such. Now, I've never been to the United States, for example, because these two English-speaking countries produce a lot of social research in the world. So, as far as I understand, in the US, people are obsessed with the quantitative research methodologies. However, to what extent mixed methods are being adopted is it's not very common. The only reason is, as I say here, the problem with the mixed methods is it's time consuming and it's expensive. So when I was doing my PhD research, I was very much, basically for first 2 years, I thought I was going to adopt mixed methods. So after 2 years, because I did part-time people generally take twice the time than full-time students. So my supervisors basically told me that if you want to adopt a mixed methods approach, then you might just to do 2 PhDs because it's that expensive and that in terms of money and time. So it's better just to have a mono method, one method, and go with it. So it's not very common, but people do mixed methods generally to triangulate, and there are different approaches. And by the way, this is the source here, right? And this is a conference paper that I wrote when I was doing my PhD. It's available on internet. This is DOI URL number. I will share the PowerPoint slides. I will send it to, I think, Osama or Darvesh after the presentation, so you can have access. And this article generally explains very well when and why people should adopt mixed methods, and it also differentiates qualitative and quantitative methods quite well. Okay, coming back to this point here. So in my understanding, to what extent mixed methods are adopted, not very common, but people do it. It's not very common, definitely at PhD level. After you have done PhD, you write for journal articles. Then still, I never been able to adopt mixed methods because it's too expensive. It's not practical, And to be pragmatic here again, you know, pragmatists adopt mixed methods, but if you want to be practical, pragmatic, then mono methods generally work better. Right. So basically, I done what I wanted to say, but there is just yep. So before I go further, these two questions earlier on somebody asked. Realism is an interesting concept. Realism is an ontological position. It can be epistemological position as well. When I did my PhD research, I claimed in my thesis, and there was no problems with that. The examiners accepted it, that ontologically I am a realist. Right? I said I am a realist, which means the social reality, which was basically my research was about the intangible resources in small businesses, how these intangible resources contribute to organizational performance. So as we can see, this is very conceptual, very subjective, that intangible resources such as people's skills, their trainings, and their different type of abilities, which even we do not see, and even it's difficult to measure, but I still claimed that this reality exists. This reality exists within people, whether or not we are aware of it. So that was my ontological position. And on my epistemological position, I was a relativist. So ontologically, I was a positivist, and epistemologically, I was a relativist. And then I adopted qualitative research methodologies. I collected my data using semi-structured interviews, and I analyzed my data thematically using in vivo. So there are a lot of other researchers that can be epistemologically positivist, but ontologically positivist and epistemologically relativist. It can be the other way around as well. So I think, my friend, this was one of your question.
This can be combined all together in one research paper.
Yeah, you
Like,
no, it's not a combination. No, you're not combining this. What you are saying is my ontological position is positivism, because you see a reality as being in existence without your intervention. So that was my claim. But then my epistemological position was relativism, because what I said is it's not possible to get access to this knowledge using quantitative research methods, because it's an under-researched area, right? There's little research done in this particular area. Therefore, you need in-depth data to analyze it. Therefore, you need to adopt qualitative research methodologies. So it's not basically not a combination of the two. You have as a epistemological approach and ontological approach, which is possible.
Victor, you just rectify my statement. I might get confused a little bit due to the
Mhm.
fact that all these terminologies being changed. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been used interchangeably from school and from
Yeah,
school
yeah,
to
yeah,
another.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
when it
True.
comes to talk about ontology and ontological philosophy,
Mhm.
I would rather prefer to say objectivism and subjectivism.
Or same thing. Yeah, objectivism is positivism. Subjectivism is relativism. True.
Yeah.
A subjective thing is a subjective. It will mean something
So
else for you.
my question in social research
Mhm.
is it common that we can find somebody who ontologically believe in subjectivism, which is epistemologically more toward positivism?
True. Yes.
Yeah.
In my
Is it?
understanding, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, my question is it does it happen, or how frequently does it happen that ontologically you are subjectivism or subjectivism, you adopt subjectivism philosophy or ontological philosophical standpoint,
Hmm.
whereas epistemologically you are more into relativism. Does that work?
Okay. Yeah, look, I can speak for myself based on my own experience. As I explained, my own in my PhD, my own ontological position was objectivism, right? And my epistemological position was subjectivism. So whether or not the other way around can also be true, I am not in a position to say anything. It might be, but what it depends is actually in this slide here. The questions before us are: what is the best research philosophy for my research project, and what
I
is the
see.
best methodology for my research project? There is no answer to it. I don't think anybody has an answer to it. The only thing that can provide an answer to it is your own research question. And the research question, I think this was your another
This is
question.
I just
Yeah,
wanted to say that this is the outset of the pragmatist. The pragmatist would say that apart from the philosophical standpoint, epistemology or ontology, we will use whatever suit the research question. But
mm,
I believe that the premise before you set out a question or research journey, the philosophy will definitely impact the way you look at the reality or the way you seek uh, constituting what so far called acceptable knowledge.
good. Yeah, that's your viewpoint. I appreciate that. But I think what the way I understand things, I will look at things is instead of a top-down approach, I will go from a bottom-up approach. I will not have a particular philosophy and then ontology and then epistemology. I will look at my research question first.
Yeah.
What is it that I'm researching? What is it that I'm trying to answer a question? And based on that, I will see that what is required or what is possible in this sense. Yes, I agree with you, pragmatism. And if my research question is, for example, the other question was you were asking earlier on is how you formulate a question. It's generally, if it is a how question, then it's a subjective question. Subjectivism is a qualitative research. For example, we said that how people become productive, which is an open-ended question, and it will require uh, qualitative data. But you said that what is it that makes people more productive? So you are basically very specifically find out what is this particular one factor or maybe two. Then it's a quantitative research question. So based on your research question, basically you go from, instead of top-down, bottom-up approach, I suggest.
Yeah, thank you. It is clear, Doctor.
I hope this conference paper, you can download it, you can read it, hopefully will clarify a lot of things which I try to clarify. And if you have any questions, anybody, by all means, you can make a note of my email here, be in touch, and we can always discuss. I will be very glad.
Yeah, would we? Is it possible to share the slides, Doctor?
Yeah, yeah,
Or would you?
I will email slides to Osama and Darwish, and hopefully they will share with everybody else.
Out of curiosity, Doctor, what is your research interest
Okay,
in the
my
social?
my research interest generally, I will stop sharing. Okay, good. My research interest is generally micro businesses, right? So micro businesses are literally very small, and they don't have different departments. They are
Yeah.
for any aspect of micro businesses. It's generally micro businesses are concerned with survival. So performance of micro businesses means micro business survival. So my research interest is generally micro businesses, how they sustain their success or how they survive. So that's basically my research.
All right. Are you interested in doing anything with AI and micro businesses?
This is really a good question. Thank you very much. We are right now. We are actually putting something together, a research proposal for research funding. I actually emailed to my other 4 colleagues. 3 are in the UK, 1 in Malaysia. So I developed a proposal. So in that proposal, we are trying to actually find out how micro businesses survived during the pandemic, COVID-19, and is technology is to blame for their survival, and which might then include artificial intelligence and other things.
Very nice.
Good. If you have any research thing, research in mind, you think, collaboration we can possibly do, by all means, just send me an email. We are very open, me and my colleagues at Huddersfield Business School.
Do you have any doctorate supervised doctorate student so far?
I have 2 of my PhD students completed last year, and I have 2 PhD students right now. Yes.
They are all in the micro business field.
No, they are not in micro business field as such. One was actually exploring knowledge management in the banking sector in Jordan, completed,
Okay.
and one was actually exploring HRM practices in the data centers in the UK. She
They're,
also completed. So it's basically not micro business as such, but linked to my research.
Great. And all of them, I believe that as you, as I can say, Doctor, that you're more into the relativism school of thought.
No, not all of them are in the relativism. Actually, the 2 students who completed their PhD, one was a qualitative researcher, the other was a quantitative researcher. So as I said, I work with other people
You
who are
personally, which way you prefer to think when it comes to the social science, social elements, social entities?
I think I would like to say overall I'm a relativist.
Right.
So because I believe in-depth analysis of anything, because I don't believe this ethic approach where people look from outside and decide what is best for them. I don't believe that you need to be an insider. You need to know inside. You need to involve people. You can't just make decisions, go to other country and make decisions for them and end up having a war with them.
Thank you very much for the
Dr. Huck,
insightful.
thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Dr.
Yeah.
Huck, can you hear me?
Shad, please.
Yeah, sure. I can
give
just.
us the concluding remarks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about the technological issues there. Anyways, Dr. Huck, I think we've come to the end of our time here. So could we possibly just maybe thank you and show our appreciation for your wonderful talk about your research methods?
Thank you very much. And I also thank you for giving me this opportunity. Hopefully it has been useful. I will share the slides with you. And if you can share the recording with me, if possible, please, I might just use, this in my teaching. Or maybe
we'll be sure to get
somewhere
that
else.
to you, sir, definitely.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a
Doctor.
nice day, all of you. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.